Um, the last meeting we had, we did have Brian talk to us, Brian Hanson, so we know it's a matter of making a decision on his position. And then this is Brian Fournier,
Yep.
right?
What I would say is we just,
I'm kind of stuck because if I have you speak to us, you're gonna have to speak to us again at the next meeting.
Because this isn't
Because
considered
this isn't an
official.
official meeting,
Yep.
because I don't have a quorum. And I apologize for that.
Fine.
You know, you drop
So elections we can't do.
You know where I'm gonna go next.
Would the Board of Selectmen consider,
Absolutely.
okay, I would say,
Go ahead.
we
I am not waiting 2 more months for this to go
forward the
forward.
applications to the Board of Selectmen without a recommendation from the EDC.
Oh, okay.
Because the EDC would just have a recommendation.
Because
but-
otherwise, we could be in the same position a
Correct.
month from
Correct.
now.
It would-
Then I'd like Brian to come up and talk to us.
Come
about-
on up. It's both-
Al, you dropped the card on the floor.
Oh, yeah. That's how I get people to call me. Thank you. Brian, I'm Al DeRusso, I'm the chairman.
Yep,
And I know you, don't I?
you do.
I know your family.
Yes, you do.
Jeez. They're all over the place, those
Yes.
Fourniers.
We've been here a while.
Yeah, yeah. This is our selectman, Steve. What's your name again?
He's my stepbrother.
This is
Kinda worked that way, right?
Charlie Tentis. I don't know if you've met
Nice to
Charlie
meet you,
before.
Brian. It's a
And you know
pleasure.
Derek?
Yep.
Okay.
If for anyone, if there is anyone out there, we are not related.
No.
Okay.
against you, Steve.
So why don't you tell us why you'd like to serve on the board? Or tell us a little bit about yourself and then you can go into that. How's that?
Well, I've been here since '85 with my parents. We moved in here, and I started a company in '91, and been self-employed ever since. And I guess my whole thing with the EDC is I just want to help promote business in town and make it easier, because I went through the process, and I'd like to anything to do to make it more friendly and make basically us not to be looked at as we want to be looked at as more business friendly, and I have a real general knowledge that I don't think that's part of what's gone on. So I just would like to see that change if I can help that out, and
Okay.
that's pretty much. I just want to be involved in some of the economic stuff going on.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Brian? I mean, I know the family background. I know that Brian, he runs a landscape business, and
I was just gonna say, what type of business do you run?
It's a landscape irrigation company. It's Brian Foyne Landscape and Irrigation. And we've operated out of Goffstown, like I say, since '91. I've been here since '91. Never moved towns or nothing like that. So I'm pretty familiar with most of the people in town, and like I said, we've worked here since then.
Your wife's in the school system, you
Yep.
said?
Yeah, so we're fairly involved. And the other thing too is also I'm on Main Street promotions and stuff, and
oh, you're
so-
involved with Main Street
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah.
Oh, good,
So
good.
That's good.
That's right. Okay. One of the, we're going to take some different directions on some of the things we're gonna do this year. At least that's my plan
Yeah.
at this point. That's provided, we gotta go through next week and do election of a chairman, vice chairman, and all that type of stuff too. And I'm not sure, I know we have one opening, right? And we have one
We've got,
alternated, we have two, let's have two alternates. Did
we have
Brian-
two full
Two
openings
full openings?
and one alternate.
Excellent, okay. Then we have two candidates to move forward. So, if anybody has any other, some of the things we try to get involved with is, in addition to trying to bring business into town, we also try to work with businesses in trying to, and we just passed this tax relief incentive.
Yep.
That'll help some businesses to expand a little bit and possibly apply to the selectmen for some tax relief
Yep.
for a period of time. And one of the things we're gonna discuss, at least we wanna discuss tonight, is how we're going to, now that it's passed, and we've gone through, and explained this to people, now we wanna try to see if we can get businesses to take advantage of it. So that's gonna be one of our things.
Probably explain it to
Yes.
them more, make them understand it better. And
Yeah, yeah, so we're gonna talk about doing that tonight, and we're also gonna talk about, and you know what? Since this is unofficial, are you taping, Shel? Yeah, you are, okay. Since it is just a discussion, I wonder if we just bring Brian up here to.
I have no problem, because I think
Brian, why
it's,
don't you come
Makes
sit up
I
here?
think it's silly that we're all sitting this far apart.
I know, hey, you wanna come over here?
Andrew, come on down, that's
Just
right.
have a seat anywhere, it's fine, it's fine. And some of the things that we would like to try to do is to try to be a little more, to be more visible out there for people. And to try to work with, like I said, work with the businesses and trying to help them do things. And taking a look at some of the locations we have in town that may need some help in getting, built up or rebuilt, depending on the situation. So that's one of the things, and not taking a page out of your book, but one of the things you mentioned last week, which I think is a great idea, and we started to do it, we started doing articles, and we used to write about a business in town. We'd pick a business and we'd write about them, but it didn't go very far, and one of the things that Derek and I have talked about a little bit was maybe we can create some sort of, not necessarily a newsletter, but some sort of where we're at, what we're doing, getting people to go to the website more and see what's going on and explain to them some of the ideas that we have, and seeing if that's some way that we can do, because trying to get an article in the paper on a regular basis can be a little tough depending on space and so on. I mean, we can always try to see if we can get it in, but sometimes it's hard to do. So I think those are some of the things that we'd like to try to work on. We did do some promoting back, a little while back, about trails in town, trying to bring people in to, the hike trails, stop in, see a business, that type of stuff, and get some interest that way, trying to get people into town. And so we'll probably continue on some of that and trying to get people to come to Goffstown as a destination, so to speak, and try to look around at some possibilities of maybe we can do something. I know that someone mentioned about doing a bike shop along the trail. So those are the types of things that would probably work pretty good out there. So, go ahead.
Now, when you're talking about like newspaper articles and stuff like that, as far as putting businesses, wouldn't it maybe like once a month, obviously, because that's when you're meeting, to do like, even like if somebody just did a general summary of what the meeting was about, not the minutes, but just a general summary of something, so people like are aware of you're here and what's going on. Because I mean, myself, I'll look at minutes and stuff like that, but a lot of people don't do that, and a lot of people don't even. I don't even sometimes think or realize that the EDC exists
Right.
in a lot of ways. And I think if you'd get more people going, oh wow, they're working on that.
And that's why
maybe I can be involved, or maybe I can promote this, or
Yeah.
people are more likely to be skimming through the newspaper and happen to hit something like that versus
Yeah.
going on Goffstown's website and looking through minutes or something. I guess is what I'm
and
thinking.
well, that's what part of the thing is to write about what we're doing, and where we want to go and what we want to try to accomplish. And I think I heard it from the selectmen's meeting Monday night, that they're looking for us to send some goals forward to them as to where we want to, what we'd like to do this year, what we'd like to try to accomplish.
Yep.
So that they can help them to determine their goals and see how we can fit in with that.
Yep.
I think that pretty much describes where we've been and what we're doing.
And I think what you're saying is it's almost like a recap of a meeting
Yeah, just
versus the, specific
yeah,
minutes.
just a generalization. We worked on this RSA, and, you know, we're moving forward with such and such, and
Yeah.
just a, I mean, I guess it wouldn't have to be big, but I guess if it was there in the paper, you're gonna tend to have more people see it and want to know about it, and especially when there's stuff that has to do with promoting business. You know, I mean, anything that can promote, whether a little explanation on some of this tax relief and so on and so forth, you're getting people to acknowledge and realize it. I think what the biggest problem is, what I found in Goffstown, is a lot of people don't really have a clue what's going on in this building, and to be able to get them to understand. I mean, there's several different things where different ordinance go past, and people don't even realize. And I mean, that's, I don't know.
It's a little bit beyond our purview, but
You know, but I'm just
you're
saying,
right.
just I'm just showing
Yep.
as a generalization.
Yep.
That's
Nope.
that's kind of how I feel where the EDC, if we did a little bit more to kind of, I guess, reach out, and by doing that, would show people what you're doing and what's happening.
I think one other thing is if we did do something like that as a written print article, I think we should also be listing it, saying it's on the website. To
Yeah.
really start
Yes.
training people
Yep.
to go to the business part of the website and really encouraging them, because then they're gonna start looking at business listings and other things on the
Yep.
website
I guess that's what
that I think can be really good tools for the consumer in town.
And we
by
could tease
directing
them,
that way.
we could
Exactly.
tease them with articles too. We can put an article in and say, to get the rest of the story, go to our website.
exactly.
You know, so you can draw them into the website. Because the website now is going to have, it's got our business directory
It does.
in there. And Derek updated most of the stuff, I think, that we got from the Business Expo.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that we found out at the Business Expo, but even a lot of the businesses don't know that the website has been updated.
Mm-hmm.
They think, oh, well, you just go on the Goffstown website if you want news about what the town's doing, minutes, that kind of thing. They didn't know that kind of stuff was available.
Well, and I think that's the other problem is when I was going through my planning board process, the reason I learned so much about the website was because I was always on the website,
Yeah,
learning about this and that,
Yeah.
finding out minutes or what have you. And by being on, I was like, oh wow, they have this. Oh, they have the on demand. But if you don't even know it's really there, you just, like he's saying, as far as total government stuff, they're not aware of how much it's broadening. I mean, I know you've done a ton of work on it. It's made a huge difference in the last year.
Could be that first article maybe then is showcasing the fact that the website is there and the benefits to it. And maybe
Let's-
letting them
let's-
know, here's a list of what's there, and then check it out.
Yeah.
all right, since we're in the idea phase, does anybody have any other questions for Brian? Okay.
Just take a step back.
Yeah, I just want to take a step back, because we're kind of getting
Brian's
into-
sitting up here, no one said anything to
Brian
Brian, I'm
says
saying,
it's-
okay, let's take a
That's great,
step
talk
back.
about it.
Already,
No.
right.
All right, we got down that path already.
So let's do this. Let's go through and let's discuss about the tax relief that we got approved. All right. Where do we want to go from here? Now, one of the thoughts I had was to send out letters to the businesses, but I don't know if we should be doing every business in that, or should we handpick businesses that we think would be able to take advantage of this without slighting others. That's my,
I think what the board is a little bit with this is that we want to, everyone has a good understanding of 79E. Then there's that part where it becomes an article, they vote on the article, and the process goes through. And now we're trying to fine tooth that criteria a little bit to make sure that when people do come forward, that they have a better understanding of what the criteria to meet for 79E and what the board itself is going to be comfortable with, so it can be executed or implemented in a fashion that's the same for each person or each group of businesses that would come forward, okay?
yeah.
Now, I know that's one of the things we talked about on Monday. So that's definitely one piece that's out there. that,
Okay.
You know, looking at that criteria, are we gonna look at situations where, or how do we wanna employ it regarding the value of let's say each one will have a different value. Do we dictate that to a span of time, or how, you know, and I realize there's a lot of flexibility in there, but you wanna try and be able to have some type of core criteria, so, you can treat each group, the same, you know, in other words, there has to be a fairness to it.
What do you mean each group?
well, I say group or a business, let's say if you're a
Okay.
business and you come by and you say, hey, I would like to go forward with this. And all of a sudden, we say, with you, we're only gonna go 2 years, and then someone else comes in and we say, well, we'll go 5 years over there. Well, you'd be saying, well, why am I 2, why is he 5? So you wanna be able to, so in other words, it's a great tool, it's in the toolbox, and just, in other words, I mean, I don't think we have to go strong into this criteria, but maybe it's a situation we're saying, depending on the dollar amounts that we're talking, that talks about the year span. I mean, those are some of the things that could be out there with 79E. I don't know, Derek, you got thoughts on this?
Well, the RSA does provide,
I know what the RSA.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
so it gives you've got to prove to the Board of Selectmen that it meets one of 4 criteria.
Correct.
Beyond that, I don't know if the discussion got into, do you look to the EDC to do a quick review and make a recommendation? Some of the forms that I've developed for when we do start doing these applications is, one, you're gonna have the building inspector look it over, because there is a substantial rehabilitation, and somebody has to check those numbers that are come in with what the construction costs are gonna be. The assessor's gonna have to look at it, because they're gonna make sure the assessment is current and is right on. You probably have planning and zoning look on it, make sure they have necessary approvals, are they ready to go from that? But, I mean, are you looking for recommendations from the EDC on each application, or do you want hard and fast rules?
I don't think they're looking for a hard and fast rule. We didn't talk into a great depth, I'll be quite honest with you, but they didn't talk about great depth, but there was that concern, well, what, when someone, in other words, someone meets the criteria, you go through
Yeah.
those initial steps. I think everyone understands that. Well, now all of a sudden, you'll be talking, some could be a different dollar figure versus another one. How do we treat it, or do we treat them all the same as going 5 years or 2 years, or,
What my thing would be is this. Each one is gonna come in based upon their own individual idea of what they wanna do. Maybe what we do is we ask them what they're looking for in terms of relief, what would work for them. Obviously, they're all gonna come in and say, I want 5 years. But if it's a smaller location, let's say, for instance, so let's just take the mill as an example. That, to me, is probably the type of project that probably we could take advantage of a 5-year, because of the size and scope of that project.
Correct.
Whereas, you take the Cumberland Farms building that has no gas, as an example, and someone wants to come in and just divide it up and put offices in there, all right? That may not be a 5-year type criteria because of the amount of money that they're gonna spend in there. That's something that you're gonna have to decide as to what you think is best for that person. Now, obviously, anything you give them, to me, is a plus on their end. So, I think you have to wait to see the scope of it. And then the other thing is that we have never indicated that anyone should come to EDC first before going to the Board of Selectmen on this particular thing, because this is something that they would apply, I believe, to the Board of Selectmen for, right?
Yeah, they'd submit the application through town hall, and then there's a statutory requirement that the selectmen hold a hearing within 60 days.
So what you could do as selectmen, Steve, is you could possibly say, okay, we received this application, I'd like to send it to EDC for a review. You could ask for our recommendation on it, we could go take a look and give our ideas, and then give you some background as to what we think. That's a possibility.
Yeah, and I think these are some of the things that the board is looking for, because the other issue, like you say, we spoke about scope and size. I think most people can look at, well, a larger scope, and depending upon the impact, but you're looking, and there's gonna be flexibility within it, but they're looking for an idea of, if it's a smaller project, do we just talk automatically 2 years, or why wouldn't we go the 5? And, or,
Yeah.
in other words, you don't wanna do, and I think what they're talking about is that if I had the same projects, I think we all could say, it's easy to say, hey, that last project was 2 years, this one will do it at 2 years, or, you could see that. But if they're not quite the same, how do you differentiate what you offer them? In other words, trying to make it a fair allocation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what about looking at it geographically? I mean, if we have target areas for places that we really want to improve, which is basically what I read this as, you're giving a tax relief to companies who basically want to spruce the place up, and they'll get a break over the next 2 years or 5 years. Is that in the ballpark?
Yep.
Well, if you had target areas that you definitely wanted to spruce up, which sounds like the intent of this, you could give those guys better terms, which might be more money and longer payback time, which they could amortize in their taxes, and they could work out to be a pretty good deal for some people. But the shorter term money could be for the outside the target areas, or for projects that are not as vital. You know, I mean, you could even just have a map of the town and be like, look, these are our target areas. Nothing personal against you folks living up in High Street and stuff like that, but our target areas that are.
I don't live on High Street.
I do actually, I do. But
No,
my
but
point
I
is,
understand what you're saying. And, yeah, I mean, that's another way for us, and that's something that we could do down here. The other thought that I had along that line would be, when they go to the Board of Selectmen, what you have to look at is how much tax dollars are you gonna be but putting aside over the
Right.
next 2 to 5 years.
Right.
If you're talking $1,000 difference,
Yeah, right.
it's not, it's
Negligible.
minimal. If you're talking $10,000, now you're starting to get into a little bit different, and maybe that's how you look at your criteria, is saying, okay, what kind of tax relief we giving? Are we giving 30 businesses $5,000 apiece? That's a good chunk of change. Are we giving one business $10,000? I think maybe that's where you would probably have to look at it and say, all right, so that determines to me whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and and of course
And that's the kind of the piece they're looking at. So are you saying it depending on the amount of the tax relief, or are we talking the scope and size of the project? And that allocates to years, but I mean, maybe the difference of 3 years to 5 years for someone who's coming in and looking to take advantage of, says, you know what, 3 years I'm not there, but 5 I'm there. Maybe, I'm not sure how much this falls into negotiation, or is it just more of an offer and acceptance? And that's where some of the issues that the board was kind of asking about regarding that. And maybe that recommendation, that it comes back to the EDC and it gets a forward there, which is another step in the process, but, I mean, it might be a good reason for that step.
Could we possibly get some feedback from some communities that have done it, that've gone through the process? What have they done? Doesn't mean we have to do it that way.
And the
Yeah,
volume-
definitely.
we
and
can
the
get
volume's not
feedback.
loud, not
Yeah.
large.
we know that Concord, and we know Manchester have done it.
Yeah, and I've seen the result of that, but I haven't talked with the staff and to see how those negotiations, work behind the scenes.
Yeah, because they may be
So
able to
maybe
give
we
you
do
some.
that.
Yeah.
Let's try to contact and find out how they.
Would you put a dollar amount on it, though?
Well, I'd be
I'm
careful.
not making a recommendation either way, I'm just.
No, I'm just
looking to
saying
add
that,
Well,
on the size of the
well, the dollar amount is what? It's $75,000 or
15%.
The-
15%.
It's substantial rehabilitation.
Right. So I mean, you're not talking about someone that's going to put $5,000 into his building and get tax relief.
No, I guess
We're
what I'm
not-
saying
We're not
is
talking
from
about
that
putting
point
vinyl
out.
siding up, but this is
Right.
major
But
construction.
I think I think I understand what you're asking of is there will be an estimate. I mean, the assessor should have a pretty good idea of what that. I don't want to say lost tax because it's not lost because it's not there yet, but
Delayed.
that
It's delayed.
that delayed
Exactly.
tax revenue
Yeah,
is.
right.
The
guess that's what I
assessor
was
should be able to give a ballpark figure to get you at least in the area of what it would be.
But hopefully, the delayed of that, the benefit or the incremental that may come in by renovating that building and increasing their business, bringing more people into town, whatever the project may be, if it's big enough, can help offset some of that too, I'm sure, as they look at all those.
The only thing I worry about, something coming back to EDC, Steve, is our timing. Where we meet once a month, so we meet like tonight, and let's say that you get an application, Monday night, you're waiting 3-4 more weeks before we meet again for us to take one shot at it and then get it back to you, because that's probably all we're gonna have, time-wise, because of the application process. Let me go back to, which I know we got into with the selectmen, let me go back to the letter. Here's a thought. let's do a letter to target businesses. Okay, kind of like in your theory, we used to target areas. Let's target the places that we think could probably take advantage of this because of the buildings that they have now. Send them the criteria that they need to meet, who to contact for more information, and then maybe some sort of idea of the process, what's needed in the process. And send that kind of a packet out, just to try to say, this is what's been passed. And the thing is, you gotta say it in such a way that you don't make someone feel like their building is no good. It has to be, this is passed, you may be, your business may be able to take advantage of this, that type of thing. And we'll put a letter together that way and send it out, and do like a small packet that goes, and let's look at the businesses and kind of decide, who we think. And if we miss somebody, we can always send the packet out later. It's not like you didn't, try.
Would you include an application with it so they can see it and be familiar with it?
We could,
You just post it on the,
I just-
on the website?
Yeah, I think at some point you gotta look at how much
Yeah.
information are you sending them? Because if you send them too much, they're likely to miss maybe the important points, but then your postage is going up a lot of things, so.
Bring them to the website.
Give them what they need to know and then direct them from
Yeah,
there.
and direct on the website, so it doesn't have to be a large mailing, it's just a basic letter. And I can sign it for the time being until we elect a chairman, and then, in that process, then we'd have something that we're sending them. We can also do, I'm trying to think of what else on RSA 79E. I think that's probably the starting point. And then maybe at some point, we create a follow-up. Follow-up being a phone call, saying, we sent out a letter to you with some information, did you receive it? Do you have any questions? Is there something we can help you with, or something along that line? And, kind of just go through the process of the different places and say, you need more information or whatever. And at least if we do that, we've given everyone, we're trying to give people an opportunity to do it. And then somewhere down the line, we can go back and say, months ago, we sent you this information, we just want you to know it's still available, should you? That's, well, we can lead a horse to water, we just can't make them drink, and so we're gonna try to at least entice them as best we can.
Saying that follow-up call as we help them further the discussion, answer any questions, and they may be very interested in moving forward and contacting Town Hall. Derek, would we lead them to you if we're
Yeah.
talking to people like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
we're the dressing,
that's fine.
we look good, but he does all the work.
But just as long as we give them the right contact information, so
Yes.
when they do
Yes.
proceed and make a call, it's not dialing a number and not getting, we're directing them right to you, so that's all. I just
Yeah,
want to
that's
clarify.
because there's a lot of things that we probably wouldn't be able to answer that,
Oh, no.
he would
Fully
have all
understood.
the information on.
Just clarification that we know it's
Do you
you.
think of anything else in this process or anything else we can do at this point, on 79E besides that?
Including telling people about it?
Yeah.
Like drawing the horses to the water? Because it sounds
Right.
to me like you doubt that people will sort of flock in.
No, I don't think they're gonna flock in. I think what will happen is that some people, even though it was passed, they don't live in Goffstown. Their business is here, but they don't live in Goffstown, so they may not know what was passed
Right.
and how it affects them. So it may be an opportunity, and some of these places that are up for sale, this may be a selling point for them to help sell the business. So, that's the way I'm looking at it is, let's see if we can get some interest. If we get 10 people to come forward, it's fantastic. If we get one, that's okay too.
And human nature is with anything, most people are afraid to step forward and be first. But once someone does and they see the success of it, and there's your example, then others may come forth and try it, once someone else has.
All I wanna
so.
see is someone that says, I wanna see more information on this, that's the one we're gonna work on and do whatever we can to help them out.
Now, case in point, like, and I'll use an example, the D'Angelo's building, the Burger King building.
Right.
I mean, I'm assuming these are owned by companies that may not be right in Goffstown,
Right.
but there's still opportunity to work with them
Yep.
to see if they can renovate it and bring another business into town.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, the letters would go to these places that are empty now,
Right.
that, you know, could have some potential to do things.
And you're right, that may not even be aware that the article passed.
Right.
Because they're not in the area.
So,
It might be advantageous to lead those messages with tax relief for, you know, for businesses in Goffstown. I think that would really get the bait on the hook, for instance,
You almost-
sending it to those people. I mean, when people look at letters, you know, they wanna know what's in it for them.
Right.
They just start tearing right down and be like, what's for them? I mean, if you could get a buzz going in town with perhaps that mailing you talked about, and maybe an article in the paper.
Yep.
That just says tax relief for town businesses, I mean, you know, the state bill and the numbers and everything are great, the RSA is fantastic.
Yeah.
What, you know, what's in it for me? Just lead off with, you know, tax relief for town businesses, people are gonna go, oh, really? I wanna hear more about that, you know?
and make sure that we
Just a
throw,
thought.
make sure we throw a question mark to it, because it's not a guaranteed situation.
Right. And it gets them thinking,
But
like
get
you
them
said.
thinking,
If you make it,
exactly,
if
yeah.
you put the benefit out there and you get them thinking, that's exactly what we want.
Yeah, and if you've been in any town meetings lately, I don't know if you noticed, but people are very worried about taxes lately.
Oh, yeah.
That comes up a lot, and maybe this time of year might have something to do with it. It's a,
Yeah.
it's a thing we're thinking about. Tax relief for Goffstown businesses, rock on.
Okay. Anything else that we should send to the businesses? All we gotta do is identify who they are. Should you and I sit down? Is that the best way,
Or the other option is I can come up with.
A list?
Either a list or I can come up with a packet.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is, and then at the next meeting, I'll have Neil do some big maps. And we can just sit around, circle, you know?
All right, in the meantime, let's do this. Let's take our time going around to look and see what places are available. Let's write our own list down, so that we know what we're seeing out there. And then, when we come in and we look at what Derek has, we'll have a better feel for what is there. I think that's probably a good way to start, because there's some places that were empty that are now, have somebody there, so we can start looking around between, and we know the areas that we're looking at. It's the Pinardville all the way to Shaw's, I should say Pinardville, in Pinardville, from Shaw's all the way to Nato's, right on Main Street, or that main road, Mass Road. And then in the village here, from the Union Street intersection, going across the bridge all the way to the first road on the left-hand side on North Mass Street, which is
Station.
No, White Street.
White Street.
The White Street?
Yeah, I
I
think
know it
that's
too,
what
but
we-
you don't know the name. That's
Yeah,
like me.
yeah, I did the same thing when we did the
Drive
tape.
it all the time.
What I'll do is I'll send out the designated areas again.
Okay.
To everyone, because I don't know if Brian have it.
Do we
Just-
have your email now?
Yep.
And
Yep.
We have your, okay, great, all right. Yeah, so if, Steve, on the two gentlemen here, if you could,
I just, what all I'll need, I guess, on Monday will be the applications.
I will get the volunteer applications for them as well as Charlie and Al.
Okay.
And I'll just put a cover letter that we didn't have a quorum, but they've shown interest and
The
participated.
reality is, there's two openings, we have two applications, and
Two renewals.
we're having difficulties having a quorum.
right,
I don't expect this to be,
big deal.
no, I think it's.
Guys that are excited to be in here to do
All
it.
right, so,
I
so
hope they
that,
pick me, I hope they pick me.
pressure's on.
They just have to come in and say, we pick Brian.
So-
Yeah, I was just gonna say you got Brian, so they're both happy to
So,
go, which Brian?
So that, I mean, as far as the application, then that'll just be in the packet on Monday?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, that's good. I didn't wanna change directions, but I wanted to make sure that we had an idea of what we're gonna be doing next. Okay. Which leads us to the, going back on old stuff, we had the expo. And I know that Charlie did a lot of walking around at the expo, not as much as I didn't do as much as he did, because he had gone to most of the places anyway. You wanna tell us how you made out?
I thought the individuals that I was able to speak to were enthusiastic to be there. the one thing is, being my first expo, was you could just see the passion in the vendors, the way they reflected themselves to people coming to their booth, how they set up their booths. I was very impressed, because I've been to trade shows where it's very lackluster and nobody seems to want to be there. And most of the vendors that I did speak to were excited to be there. They were having a good time talking to people. And I think the other thing that kind of surprised me was that they knew nothing about the business listing on the website. So I view that not as a weakness, but a great opportunity for us to take advantage of it, to help them get it listed, as Derek, you were doing when we were running around giving you cards. But also, perhaps following up with them to say, okay, we want you to go check it now and see other businesses that are out there. If you know other businesses in town that are your friends, tell them, so we can get them listed and do some upgrades at the same time.
How many businesses do we have total, do you know, listed?
Unfortunately, right now, there's 400 listings. I think it's at 398, but there's a couple of them that are under dual categories, so they get counted a couple of times.
Oh, that's not a big deal.
So I think I added 14 at the Business Expo.
Okay. Now, what I'm wondering is can we, I know they're listed on the website. How do we get people to go to the website? What's the best way to get them to go there to see the businesses in town? Should we do a feature box where we take, if there's 400, we take 100 a week or whatever, or we take 50 a week or whatever, and we put 50 up in that box and say these are businesses in Goffstown, and then the following week put another 50 and list them that way?
Like a showcase box.
Kind
so
of
to
like a
speak.
showcase, and I don't know if we can do that or not, Derek, and I don't know how much work is involved with that.
I'm sure there's some way to do it. I know,
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I guess I have a question,
Go
because I
ahead.
think I understand what you're saying. I mean, when someone says the website, my first question is, why do I want to go to the website? I mean, why do I want to go there? In other words, it's great that we have the website. It's great that there's a place for businesses to go, but what draws, in other words, what would draw me as a business? In fact, Brian, you were both, we're fortunate to have two Brians with businesses, or had businesses. What would draw you to a website? Why would you want to go to your local community website? That's my first question.
Well, I mean, most of the time, I know myself is always to see what's going on, you know, whether it's planning, zoning, EDC, stuff like that. But as far as the business part of it, the only reason would be, let's say, if I wanted to have something done to keep my business in town. I have, for example, anytime, let's say, I've had a dishwasher fix or something at one of my apartments in town, I'll open up and I'll look for somebody in Goffstown. Now I'll most likely look on there to see. So I mean, that for me, but that's, I guess, not so much more as a business owner, it's more as a consumer. But
Maybe we do something that says keep local.
You follow where I'm going then,
Yes.
thank you.
Keep local, and these are businesses in town that we, that are in town to,
It supports the tax base.
you know.
And
Now-
it's a lot of what, like Robbie stresses in her articles for Main Street. Keep local, get gift certificates, eat at these establishments,
you push that a lot.
Exactly, and I think it's almost twofold with, you look at it, they're excited to be at the expo, they're local businesses, some are on there, they're aware of it, they like to be listed, some have no clue that it's there, a lot of consumers don't know it's there. Maybe we need to take time at GTV and have a tape session where it's like, folks, here's the website, we want to help educate you about what's there and how to get there, and it's a great tool, take advantage of it. And I think most of the people in the community are like, well, how do I do it, where do I go? And I think if we kind of give them a brushstroke flavor of it, saying if you're looking for a florist, if you're looking for a heart, here's where you go, here's what you do, and you're keeping the business here in town.
Right.
And I think we need to educate them. We could put it in print in the newspaper, but I think if we could do it with an actual example on GTV, then people must say, hey, I gotta check this thing out.
So are we looking at doing a session of features?
Let me ask the second
Go ahead.
question. Why
Go ahead.
people go to a website. I know I go to a website. The second, well, I mean, obviously, that's a good piece there, that the local business see who's available. We try to keep it within town. It's always been a great piece, but what's the big reason someone goes to a website?
Information.
Information, and what's the other, I already know information, but what else am I really looking for? I'm looking for a discount. I'm looking for something out there. What's in it for me? I mean, what makes me as, not just another business, but as a consumer within town, in other words, why would I go there? And I don't even know if it's something that can be within our charge or within that site, but if there was an incentive financially for me to go there, those who, in other words,
Yeah,
people, and because when people go to a site for, let's say in the case of, and I'm not saying we do this or not, but people normally go to a site because they're looking for, one, the product, they're looking for information, then they're also looking for an incentive. And at the same time, when that incentive, all of a sudden I see these others that are there, and I'm looking at others, and it gives you that awareness. I'm just saying, I'm not sure if we can or if we would, but is an incentive a possibility within this?
Most of the businesses that Derek has, not most of them, but a good part of them that are on there have their own websites which link direct, which to me, that's where, at that point, you're gonna get your discount or what have
up to
you,
the-
or.
the
I mean,
vendor to
I
do
mean,
that,
you've drawn them to it. I mean, I don't think, we can talk about that, but I think the town website's gonna be so big by the time we get done this.
No, I'm just saying, but why not just go to you, why not just go to that site
Well,
direct?
and
That's
that's-
my purpose, in other words.
Well, if they don't know you're there, that, I guess.
What we're
that's-
trying to do is we're trying to say, these are the businesses that we have in Goffstown. We'd like you to support these businesses. So keep local in your purchases. Keep Goffstown in mind when you make your next purchase or something like that. And these are the businesses in town that we'd like you to support. And you could do it something like in that aspect of it. Then if they go to someone's website or they call the phone number that's on there, then they can go through and do whatever they've got to do. I don't wanna, I wanna stay away from, I mean, you could get to the point someday where you could say, okay, mention EDC and get a 10% discount, but you don't wanna,
No, I wasn't.
I don't wanna go that way,
I wasn't
but.
talking that route. I remember one time, it was a handful of years back, there was a town, and I'm not saying we advocate this, but it was just the ingenious of the idea, that they went, and what they did was they actually printed, I don't wanna say money, but vouchers that you purchased within, and when you
Yeah.
purchased that, you received, in other words, you were paying 10% less than what the voucher was worth, thus you would buy and do local. And they talked about that and how that system went around, and it was incredible how it became a buy local piece. Thus, all I'm trying to get at is that there was incentive to do that, to go local.
Yeah.
In other words, putting out going local is very good, but it'd be nice if we could have that extra step. Why do I really want to go local? I mean, the reality out there is why these box stores survive is that people leave local because they go there for some type of incentive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a thought.
You wanna say something?
I'd love to add to that if you
Go
don't
ahead,
mind.
yeah, please.
I think
go
that'd be
ahead.
great. I think Steve's, in my opinion, Steve's right on, and I think you could do it without sort of getting your hands dirty. Like
Right.
we're the schlocky guys that get you deals. Just develop some sort of association in town. Some sort of club in town that companies in town can be a member of. That they can give a discount to people who live in Goffstown. 10% discount across the boards. And oh, by the way, you go to the EDC website to see who those people are. All you would have to do is approach each of the businesses and say, look, we're talking about maybe giving a 10% discount to people who live in Goffstown. Any problem with that? Most of them won't say, yeah, they have a problem with that. And once those people, I don't know, sign up for the special color font on the website or something like that, they can say, hey, I noticed on the EDC website that you guys are colored in green, that means 10% discount, right, for Goffstown people? And they're like, hot diggity dog. I mean, now they're going in there because they want to get something. And we were that source that they came to find out where they can get that something, so it serves in both ways. And if we can keep away from the schlockiness of, you got to come to us to get that 10%, no, let it be some sort of voluntary thing that everybody wants to sign up for. Because, with the incentive that it'll drive business through their door, why wouldn't they say yes, I mean, 10% of something, 90% of something now is better than 100% of something later sometimes. So some people go for it. Some sellers would go for it, I think. Does that mesh with what you were saying?
You're very close to that piece.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
In other words, that there's gotta be that incentive, and I do like the idea of the part where, hey, not everyone's going to want to do that, and some might wanna do it in different months and not others.
Yeah.
And this can be that flexibility piece, but this is also us working more with the community. We are a silent feature out here right now. The EDC is just a silent, I mean, as Brian said, it's a silent piece. How do you, in other words, how do you stir people to become more aware of it and want to go to the site, understand, I keep saying site. It's not even about the site, it's about just people, like you say, buying local, being aware of local business and what value it brings to them as a consumer and living within the town.
I think back to what Brian was saying is on the, like you're saying, on the businesses that would, let's say have a different color or whatever. That would be a good incentive in the fact that whether we did a little something in a newspaper, GTV, what have you, go to EDC website this month to see who's giving, a 10% discount, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that would be the simplest thing, and if there was, and I mean, I don't know how difficult that would be to be doing different colors, what have you, but then when they clicked on it, then obviously it'd go to the website and they'd see what the special was that month, but it would at least be in that aspect, pointing them to that website, I guess.
If we did
I think that's the easiest way to,
We'd have to do a mailing and explain what we're trying to do,
yeah.
and then ask them to contact us if they're interested in participating. And then what we could do is say on the site, keeping local, these businesses in blue, green, yellow, whatever we decide to use for a color, will honor a 10% discount or whatever,
Whatever, sure.
We'll honor some sort of special incentive for you to do business with them. Something like that.
And I think if it changed frequently, it would get people to visit it more, where.
If it stays the same and gets stale, they won't
I
do
guess
it.
it's
They
not
drop
saying.
off.
That is correct.
They drop off.
And if there was some incentive for the businesses to give more of a discount, like a 25% discount, like get the word out a month ahead of time that whoever has the biggest incentive next month gets top billing on the website and gets an emailing or something like that. If we used Constant Contact to help them market their business, somebody might be like, I would love to give out a 25% business, a discount just to get people through the door. I know that's absurd to say 25%, but you get my idea. Make it competitive among the people in town who wants to give a big discount. You might get them involved, might be interesting at least.
Right.
And then it would be dynamic, it would change from month to month and who gets the top billing.
Because the other reality is that businesses have to deal with, when one goes on the internet and let's say I'm looking for bicycles and I hit bicycles, and I'll just take, for example, we do have a local bike shop. Where does that come up on the website? And the higher it comes up, the more they're paying for that process, okay? And what keywords are being driven. But here you can just go locally without that cost, because there's several things that I look at that I'd like to see within EDC, and it's just me, just mind you. I think 79E is a great tool, because that promotes revitalization. I like that idea. Revitalization brings in business. Business is good for everyone. It's good for the tax base. Good for the rest of us. I think the website is good. In other words, what we're looking there is just for awareness of what's going on out there, what businesses are there. But also, we gotta bring that networking piece in there also. And I'm not sure where that third piece will come in. In other words, do business network? Yeah, I think Main Street does a fairly good job with that, but I don't think I'll be quite honest, when you said 400 businesses, doesn't it make you think when someone says there's 400 businesses in Goffstown, you really start thinking, where are these 400 businesses?
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean?
I said that, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Some are home-based, I'm sure.
And we realize that.
Many of them, yeah.
Right.
But if I'm a home-based business, which means I'm not having, in other words, small businesses are capital intensive. I mean, if I'm a small base, how do I get out there and network and in fact, not only network with the other businesses in town, but also network to how I can attract the customers that are local to me. I mean, those are the pieces that we can have some influence on, I think, and that's what I'd like. I'd like to see something like that, but that's just my opinion, mind you. But I mean, if I'm a business in town, that's what I'm looking for. How can I network? How can I have awareness of where my facility is? And how do I keep people interested? And I think, and once again, 79E's out there, how can I revitalize my building if I'm in a situation like, those are things that we can do or have an influence on. And I'm not sure, there's other ideas of people looking, what a business would want, especially when I have two businessmen here. What more would you be looking for? What other pieces? Just as we kind of we're just brainstorming, throwing stuff out, but.
Well, I think that with this whole thing, it goes right back to the beginning of what you're saying, is you got to attract them to the website for us to get some, local business to get something out of it. I mean, that's the beginning of the process. And then as far as for me, I would look for, obviously you want everybody to call you, and we want more business, and we want more recognition in town,
It's
I mean,
marketing is what you're talking about.
yeah, I mean,
Let me throw this out. Since you have a pretty good idea of what what he's talking about.
Did I just get signed up for a committee already?
Yeah, well, what I was gonna
Video
do
one.
is I was gonna ask you,
Right?
I was gonna ask you for the next meeting, if you
Sure.
could put something together of what you think, would work along those lines of what we just talked about. And bring it in so that we can take a look at it and say, okay, what do we like of it, what don't we like, what do we wanna change? Is it okay as it is, how do we make that work, type of thing. Would you mind doing something like that?
I'd love to do that, that'd be fine.
Okay,
Let
that
me
would
borrow
be
your
great.
pen, please. I'm gonna write that down.
And then, Charlie, you mentioned about TV, GTV. Let me ask you for the next meeting, can you figure out, put down how we could take advantage of the TV station with what we do? Go through something like that. This is one of the things that's always been lacking with EDC, is getting assignments and nobody ever getting anything. It always falls on the chairman or the development director to have to do everything. So if you don't mind doing that, then we can sit down at the next meeting where we have a quorum, and we can sit down and say, okay, these are the things we're gonna do. Let's see how we can make this work, because I think there's some great ideas here, and there's some good opportunity. And we may not be able to get to as far as what Steve wants to get to right away, but down the road, within the next few months, we may be able to get there. And we may even start getting to the point of where, I know on our website, excuse me, we do have some businesses, newer businesses that have come in that we've been plopping up on that screen. But maybe we start looking at something that comes into town, you're a new business in town, maybe we start doing something else with new business in town, type of thing. Maybe that's how we drive people to our website somewhat. You're new in town, you're just starting off, do a little write-up about them and throw a picture of their business or whatever we can in there to try to, see if it'll help them. The other thing, a letter to go out to businesses, that's something that maybe you and I can work on?
Yeah, we can work on a packet of what information.
Putting stuff together.
And then I can talk to IT about producing some maps. That way, as long as everyone comes in with a few sites that they think might benefit from it, and we can just start circling.
So let's try to come back, if we can come up with at least 5 locations, and maybe we may come up with all the same 5 places, but if we can come in with about 5 locations, that would probably help us to start getting an idea, I didn't even think about that place,
Specifically for what?
to target them for this packet that we wanna send out, so,
Revitalization.
I mean,
Revitalization.
obviously the mill is an obvious location, but places like that,
Sure.
and we had mentioned some of the places in Penarville, but there may be other places that we're not thinking of that may wanna take advantage of something like that.
And I think as we look at these, it's not always the vacant building that's a shoe-in because it's
Right.
empty and we want to fill it. It could be a building, as you said, if we approach someone and not to offend them,
Right.
but just to say, we view it as not as a true weakness, but it's an opportunity to make your facility even better.
Right.
And if we can phrase it that way, so it's also looking at places that may need some sprucing up, so to speak, that we can put them on the list too, besides the Mill and D'Angelo's
Right.
and those places.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, is that the things that catch your eye as you're going down can, if we start writing them down and bring them in, and we start saying, okay, these are potential places, let's send out these packets, let's see how this works, and see if we can go from there. And then with the TV information that you can try to put together, and the stuff that you were gonna work on.
Sure.
That should help us to get started for our next meeting. At the next meeting, obviously, we'll have, Monday night, we would know if these two gentlemen are approved to be on the.
I'm sure we're fine.
Okay, so that being the case, I'm going to make a big assumption that sometime after Monday, probably, I would say probably, let's start with Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday next week, you can come in to get sworn in by the clerk's office.
And I'll communicate with you by
Yeah.
email on.
Okay. Then this way here, when we have our meeting, we don't have to go through that process, because poor Steve's gonna have to do the swearing in.
I don't read very well. I can't see very well. So I can't
Might
read
take
very
a-
well. You know?
We'll go upstairs.
We'll go upstairs. That'll speed up the process of the whole thing, and then we can get into we'll get into elections and get that part out of the way, and then we can get into the stuff we discussed. How's that?
Excellent.
Good.
Anything else that someone wants to bring up tonight? We're pretty much covered everything, I think, that we have on there. Oh, and the other thing is that I know the selectmen will be looking for on the goals, so maybe put that as part of our
Agenda.
for the next time, is to make sure we can revisit some of these goals that are here, that we have listed, and then maybe make some changes or whatever, and go from there. All right? All right, so I guess that's it. Thank you, gentlemen. I
Thank you.
appreciate your involvement, and look forward to having you on board.
Thank you.